You talk that coaches are very important in this conference, and we just said goodbye to probably the best coach that has ever coached the game of basketball at any level, and that's Coach K for the Duke Blue Devils. He goes 42 years and decides to hang it up. How selfish, right? But now he has longtime assistant John Shire taking the reins. This seems like a very good selection. Now we know that there has been some conversations in the past that maybe he would hang it up early when he had some surgeries. I know even at one time Coach K said he was going to resign, but the university said no, that's not going to happen. This was inevitable. We knew this was happening. John Shire is going to be the first shot at it post Coach K. I'm sure that they're hoping that they can get 42 years out of this guy as well. I've seen him in press conferences. He speaks well. He seems confident. You could tell initially he was a little scared, but he's figuring it out. He's exposing himself a little more to some questions that you wouldn't see Coach K do, but I think that just comes to experience. I wouldn't hold that against him. But I'm actually really excited to see how he does. I think that's going to be a fun storyline to talk about all season. We're not going to be the only podcast or any show that talks about John Shire all year. Looking at this Blue Devils team, though, this isn't the only thing that's changing as the coach. This entire team is changing. This is the new aspect with Duke. We've seen this in and year out with this new one and done rule. Duke has took that wholeheartedly and ran with it. They have bought in on the one in and one outs, or 1 year, one done, and they run away with it. But it worked for them last year, 32-7 in the entire league. In conference, they're 16-4. It worked. They got the ACC championship. They got to pretty far in the NCAA tournament. It works. Now you look at this team, they're predicted to be either first or second in the ACC and make a pretty decent run in the NCAA tournament with the only returning starter in Jeremy Roach, who will be their captain, by the way. Seems like a fantastic guy. But when you only have one returning starter and a whole bunch of freshmen, now don't get me wrong, the number one overall freshman prospect, number two overall freshman prospect coming in, and Derek Lively, and you got Kyle Flapowski, and Derek, just lost Derek's last name. Whitehead. There you go, Derek Whitehead. I mean, you have some very good players coming in, but none of them are proven. It's a huge risk that Duke's taken. So in the past, it's worked. But every year you have to ask the question, will it work again?
Well, I think it's ideal to work in this situation because you're eliminating any question. Well, Coach K used this guy in this role, and he thought this guy was better coming off the bench than being a starter. It's a brand new beginning for Duke. They're not going to go into a rebuild mode and be at the bottom of the ACC. That's probably never, ever, ever going to happen again. Shire is coming in. These are his guys for the most part. He was heavily involved in the recruiting over the last couple of seasons. So it's a perfect time to have a roster turnover. And when you can have a guy like Derek Lively, who basically he's the ultimate teammate. He's a taller version of Grant Hill, I would say, from how everybody's described him. Wonderful teammate, smart, good on-court presence, just ridiculous athletic prowess. You add him to Roach, you add him to some of the other guys. The guy that Duke fans should take a look at is the guy that transferred in from Harvard. And Cale Catchus, that guy can shoot. He is going to answer a lot of questions as we get deeper into the season. Who's going to be there to hit the big shot? He is the guy. I'm a huge Ivy League fan and follower. He is special. I didn't understand, other than the education, why he was in the Ivy League. Going to a school with the academic reputation of Duke, okay, it makes a sense, to go into the transfer portal and go ahead and do that. Duke will be fine. It's like anything. Are there going to be blips? Of course there are. And when you're following a legend, it doesn't matter. I mean, Roy Williams went through that. Having to follow legends both at Kansas and in North Carolina. It happens. I mean, you just have to eventually get over it. We'll give you 1 year, Duke fans and college basketball fans, to get over Mike Krzyzewski, because his legacy is forever. It's not just while he was coaching. And it is interesting to note, okay, Shire's 34, Krzyzewski was 33 when he came from Army to take over Duke. And people had the same kind of questions. Well, it's a completely new roster, and how is he going to be able to compete? And this is an Army. Krzyzewski anointed him just like Knight anointed Krzyzewski as being the next big thing as far as a college basketball coach is. And I think both Knight's prediction was correct. Krzyzewski was probably the greatest college basketball coach in my lifetime. And I've been around a long time. And I remember John Wooden. I mean, I vividly remember those UCLA teams. Krzyzewski was a better coach and better, not a better person, but his impact was just, it's immeasurable in college basketball. Shiro will be fine. Krzyzewski knows this is the guy that can come into that institution. And remember, even with the one and dones, to a degree, it plays to Duke's favor because their academic standards are so stringent. If a player is a borderline academic admission at Duke, maybe 1 year and he would be forced to go on academic probation or whatever it would be. So it does play for him that way. But I think overall, Duke, it's not really going to miss a beat. It's going to look different. It's going to feel different. But at the end of the day, in March, Duke is going to be there.
One thing to keep in mind, Shire is taking over a 32-7 team. When Coach K took over, he came from Army with a losing record that year. Army had a losing record. I know many people were upset that Coach K was coming to coach Duke after having a losing record for West Point. Well, that worked out pretty well for them.